Is Germany on the brink of a political revolution? As the AfD surges in recent elections,
how do you feel, Mr. Hicker?
Their controversial push for mass deportations has captured national attention. With millions of illegal immigrants in their sights, this dramatic shift is stirring intense debate. What's fueling this transformation, and what might it mean for Germany's future? This video reveals shocking news about Germany's mass deportation plans that shocked the world, which you never knew.
Schreiben wir in Sachsen, in Thüringen und in Brandenburg Geschichte.
Background on Germany's immigration policies. Germany's approach to immigration has evolved significantly since World War II. In the immediate post-war period, Germany faced a massive influx of displaced persons, including refugees and ethnic Germans returning from Eastern Europe. The Wirtschaftswunder, or economic miracle, of the 1950s and 1960s led to a demand for labor, prompting Germany to invite guest workers, Gastarbeiter, from countries like Turkey, Italy, and Greece. Initially seen as temporary, many of these workers settled permanently, shaping Germany's demographic landscape and sparking early debates on immigration and integration. The refugee crisis of 2015 marked a turning point in Germany's immigration policy. Over 1 million refugees, primarily from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, sought asylum in Germany, leading to widespread public and political debate. Chancellor Angela Merkel's decision to open the country's borders was both lauded for its humanitarianism and criticized for its perceived strain on Germany's resources and social fabric. The crisis exacerbated divisions within German society and fueled the rise of populist movements, most notably the AfD, which capitalized on fears surrounding immigration and security. The AfD's anti-immigration stance resonated with a significant portion of the electorate, reshaping the political landscape and intensifying discussions on the sustainability of Germany's immigration policies. Germany's legal framework for immigration is governed by the Basic Law, Grundgesetz, which guarantees the right to asylum for those fleeing political persecution. However, this right is subject to various regulations and restrictions. The Dublin Regulation, part of EU law, requires asylum seekers to apply for asylum in the first EU country they enter, complicating Germany's role in the broader European context. The Asylum Act, Asylgesetz, outlines the procedures for applying for asylum and the conditions under which it may be granted or denied. Over the years, Germany has tightened its asylum laws, introducing measures to expedite deportations of those whose applications are rejected and creating safe countries of origin lists to streamline the process. Illegal immigrants in Germany face a complex legal environment. While undocumented individuals may have access to basic services like emergency health care, they are subject to deportation if caught by authorities. The Residence Act, Aufenthaltsgesetz, governs the legal status of non-EU nationals, including provisions for deportation and detention. In recent years, Germany has increased efforts to enforce deportations, especially for individuals deemed to pose a security threat or those who have committed crimes. Germany's political landscape is deeply divided on immigration. The CDU-CSU, traditionally center-right, has adopted a more cautious approach to immigration, advocating for stricter controls while emphasizing integration. The SPD, on the center-left, supports a balanced approach, combining humanitarian responsibilities with pragmatic policies. The Greens are staunch defenders of open immigration policies, emphasizing human rights and integration. The FDP, Free Democratic Party, takes a more liberal stance, focusing on skilled immigration and economic benefits. On the far right, the AfD has emerged as the most vocal opponent of immigration, calling for strict limits on asylum, mass deportations of illegal immigrants, and the preservation of German culture. Their rise has shifted the national debate, pushing immigration to the forefront of political discourse. As the AfD gains more influence, their hardline stance on immigration continues to polarize German society, setting the stage for potential policy changes that could reshape the country's future. Formation and history of the AfD. The Alternative for Germany, AfD, was founded in 2013 as a response to the Eurozone crisis. Initially, the party focused on opposing the European Union's financial policies, particularly the bailouts provided to economically struggling EU countries like Greece. The AfD was born out of frustration with the mainstream political parties, which many Germans felt were too accommodating towards EU fiscal policies that appeared to prioritize European solidarity over national sovereignty. The party's early leadership, composed mostly of academics and economists, emphasized a return to the Deutsche Mark and a more restrictive monetary policy. This Eurosceptic stance resonated with a segment of the population concerned about the long-term viability of the euro and Germany's role in propping up weaker EU economies. While the AfD's initial focus was on economic issues related to the EU, the party began to shift its platform in 2015 during the refugee crisis. The arrival of over 1 million refugees and migrants in Germany provided fertile ground for the AfD to expand its appeal by tapping into growing fears and concerns about immigration. The party's rhetoric began to emphasize issues of national identity, security, and cultural preservation, positioning itself as a staunch defender of German values against what it perceived as the negative impacts of uncontrolled immigration. This shift was further solidified by a change in leadership. In 2015, Frauke Petry became the party's co-leader, and under her guidance, the AfD increasingly adopted an anti-immigration stance. The party's message became more populist, railing against the so-called establishment and mainstream media, which it accused of covering up the negative consequences of mass immigration. This transformation from a single-issue Eurosceptic party to a broad-based nationalist movement marked a turning point for the AfD, allowing it to attract a larger and more diverse voter base. The proposed mass deportation plans. The AfD's proposed mass deportation plans have become one of the most talked-about issues in German politics today. As the party continues to gain traction, especially after recent electoral victories, they've made it clear that immigration, particularly illegal immigration, is at the top of their agenda. The AfD's plans are bold, sweeping, and, unsurprisingly, controversial. Let's start by breaking down what the AfD is actually proposing. At the heart of their plan is the goal to deport over 1 million illegal immigrants currently residing in Germany. This isn't just about removing individuals who have committed crimes or who pose a security threat. It's about addressing what they see as a fundamental problem of illegal immigration on a massive scale. The party argues that these deportations are necessary to preserve Germany's cultural identity, ensure public safety, and reduce the economic burden on the state. One of the key features of the AfD's plan is the criteria for deportation. The party has proposed strict and broad criteria that would encompass a wide range of individuals. Anyone residing in Germany without proper documentation, those whose asylum applications have been rejected, and even those who have been living in the country for years without gaining legal status could be targeted. The AfD is also pushing for the immediate deportation of individuals who have committed crimes, regardless of the severity. This hardline approach reflects the party's belief that Germany's current immigration policies are too lenient and that swift, decisive action is needed. In terms of numbers, the AfD's proposal is staggering. They're talking about deporting more than 1 million people over the next few years. To put that into perspective, Germany currently deports tens of thousands of people annually, a figure that would need to increase dramatically to meet the AfD's goals. This would require not only significant resources, but also a level of coordination across various government agencies that has never been attempted on this scale before. The methods proposed by the AfD are equally ambitious. The party has suggested creating specialized task forces dedicated solely to identifying, detaining, and deporting illegal immigrants. These task forces would operate at both the federal and state levels, with the power to bypass certain legal hurdles that currently slow down the deportation process. Additionally, the AFD is advocating for agreements with countries of origin to facilitate quicker repatriation of deported individuals. They also propose increasing the use of detention centers to hold individuals awaiting deportation, ensuring that they cannot abscond before they are removed from the country. When we compare these proposals to Germany's existing deportation policies, the differences are stark. Currently, Germany's approach to deportation is far more measured. The process is often lengthy, involving multiple legal appeals and careful consideration of each individual's circumstances, particularly in cases involving families or individuals who have integrated into society. The AFD's plans, however, represent a radical departure from this approach, focusing on speed and volume over individual case assessments. AFD leaders have been vocal in defending their proposals, arguing that Germany's current immigration policies are unsustainable and that drastic measures are needed to restore order. They claim that illegal immigration is undermining Germany's social fabric and putting undue pressure on public services like healthcare, education, and housing. By deporting those who are in the country illegally, the AFD believes they can alleviate these pressures and create a more secure and stable environment for legal residents. One of the party's key talking points is the idea of fairness. AFD leaders argue that it is unfair for illegal immigrants to benefit from Germany's welfare system, while many German citizens struggle to make ends meet. They contend that mass deportations will not only restore fairness, but also send a clear message that Germany will not tolerate illegal immigration. This rhetoric has resonated with a significant portion of the electorate, particularly in regions that have experienced high levels of immigration in recent years. Critics, however, have raised numerous concerns about the feasibility and morality of the AFD's plans. Questions have been asked about how these mass deportations would be implemented without violating international human rights laws or damaging Germany's reputation on the global stage. There are also fears that such aggressive policies could lead to social unrest and further polarize an already divided society, stirring political reactions. The AFD's mass deportation plans have sparked intense reactions across the political spectrum and within German society. As the proposals have become a central talking point, other political parties have been quick to voice their positions, with many expressing strong opposition. Starting with the CDU, Christian Democratic Union, the party has taken a cautious but critical stance. While the CDU has traditionally advocated for stricter immigration controls and has supported deportations for those who pose a threat or have no legal right to stay, the scale and severity of the AFD's proposals are seen as extreme. The CDU leadership argues that while illegal immigration must be addressed, mass deportations on the scale suggested by the AFD could lead to significant social unrest and tarnish Germany's reputation as a country that upholds human rights. They advocate for a more measured approach, focusing on better integration policies and improved border controls, rather than sweeping deportations. The SPD, Social Democratic Party, has also been vocal in its criticism. The SPD has long championed the rights of immigrants and refugees, emphasizing the importance of humanitarian values in Germany's immigration policies. Party leaders have condemned the AFD's plans as inhumane and impractical, arguing that such measures would only deepen divisions within society. They stress that the focus should be on addressing the root causes of migration, such as poverty and conflict, rather than resorting to mass expulsions. The SPD calls for continued support for those who have integrated into German society and opposes any blanket approach that doesn't consider individual circumstances. The Greens have perhaps been the most outspoken critics of the AFD's deportation plans. Known for their progressive stance on immigration and human rights, the Greens argue that the AFD's proposals are not only morally wrong, but also counterproductive. They believe that deportations should be a last resort, used only in cases where all other options have been exhausted. The Greens also highlight the contributions that immigrants have made to German society and economy, warning that mass deportations could lead to a loss of valuable skills and cultural diversity. They advocate for policies that promote inclusion and integration rather than exclusion. The FDP, Free Democratic Party, has taken a somewhat different approach, focusing on the practical implications of the AFD's proposals. While the FDP agrees that illegal immigration is a problem that needs addressing, they question the feasibility of deporting over 1 million people. FDP leaders have pointed out the logistical challenges, the potential for legal battles, and the enormous cost that such an operation would entail. They argue for a more targeted approach, emphasizing the importance of skilled immigration and the need to streamline the legal immigration process. Turning to public opinion, reactions to the AFD's deportation plans are mixed. Polling data suggests that a significant portion of the German population supports stricter immigration controls, particularly in regions where the AFD has gained electoral success. However, support for mass deportations is less clear-cut. While some Germans believe that stronger measures are necessary to protect the country's interests, others are concerned about the humanitarian implications and the impact on Germany's international standing. Surveys indicate that while there is a desire for more effective immigration policies, many people are uncomfortable with the idea of mass deportations, particularly if they involve individuals who have lived in Germany for many years or who have established families here. Immigrant communities and human rights organizations have reacted with alarm and outrage. For many in these communities, the AFD's proposals are seen as a direct threat to their safety and well-being. There is a deep fear that the implementation of such plans would tear families apart and create an atmosphere of fear and suspicion. Human rights organizations have condemned the proposals as a violation of international law, particularly the rights of refugees and asylum seekers. They argue that the AFD's plans would undermine Germany's commitments under various international treaties and could lead to widespread human rights abuses. Legal and ethical considerations. When discussing the AFD's mass deportation plans, it's essential to delve into the legal and ethical landscape surrounding such proposals. Germany, as a member of the European Union, operates within a complex legal framework that governs deportations, and any move to drastically increase these actions would undoubtedly face significant legal scrutiny. First off, let's talk about the legal framework in place. In Germany, deportations are governed by both national laws and EU regulations. The key piece of legislation here is the Aufenthaltsgesetz, Residence Act, which outlines the conditions under which non-citizens can be removed from the country. The process is usually long and involves multiple steps, including the possibility of appeals. Additionally, the EU's Dublin regulation plays a critical role, as it dictates that asylum seekers must be processed in the first EU country they enter. This regulation often complicates the deportation process, as it requires cooperation between member states, which is not always forthcoming. Given this legal framework, the AFD's plans to deport over 1 million people would likely face numerous challenges. For starters, any large-scale deportation effort would almost certainly lead to a flood of legal cases. Many individuals targeted for deportation might contest the decision in court, arguing that they have integrated into society or that returning to their country of origin would put them at risk. Germany's judiciary is independent, and courts have historically been cautious about approving deportations without thorough consideration of each case. This means that the AFD's plans could be bogged down in legal battles for years, making their ambitious goals difficult, if not impossible, to achieve. Beyond the logistical and legal hurdles, there are also significant ethical concerns. Critics of the AFD's proposals argue that mass deportations could lead to violations of human rights.
Even be discussing a so-called master plan which could see the mass deportation of asylum seekers and German citizens with foreign backgrounds.
International law, including treaties like the European Convention on Human Rights and the UN Refugee Convention, set strict standards for how individuals should be treated, particularly those seeking asylum or fleeing persecution. For instance, the principle of non-refoulement, which is enshrined in international law, prohibits countries from deporting individuals to a place where they would face serious harm. The AFD's broad criteria for deportation might not always account for these protections, raising the risk of unlawful deportations. Moreover, ethical concerns extend to the impact on individuals and families. Many of the people the AFD aims to deport have been living in Germany for years, some even decades. They have built lives, established families, and contributed to their communities. Deporting such individuals en masse raises serious moral questions about the disruption of lives and the potential harm caused to those who may have few, if any, connections to their country of origin. Opponents argue that this approach dehumanizes people, treating them as problems to be removed rather than as individuals with rights and dignity. The human rights implications are also a major point of contention. Germany has long prided itself on its commitment to upholding human rights, both domestically and internationally. Implementing the AFD's deportation plans could put this reputation at risk. International bodies and human rights organizations would likely scrutinize Germany's actions, and any perceived violations could lead to condemnation and even sanctions. This could damage Germany's standing in the global community and undermine its ability to advocate for human rights elsewhere. Impact on Germany and Europe. The AFD's mass deportation plans are creating waves not just in Germany, but across the entire European continent. The implications of such a large-scale strategy are far-reaching, affecting the economy, society, and Germany's position on the international stage. First, let's dive into the economic impact. The idea of deporting over 1 million people raises immediate concerns about the labor market. Many of those targeted for deportation are working-age adults who play crucial roles in various sectors, from agriculture to hospitality. Removing this labor force could lead to significant shortages in these industries, potentially disrupting businesses and increasing costs. Imagine trying to find workers for farms or construction sites if a significant portion of the workforce suddenly disappears. It's a scenario that could lead to delays, higher wages for remaining workers, and increased costs for consumers. On the flip side, while the AFD argues that mass deportations could ease the strain on Germany's welfare system, the reality might be more complicated. Implementing such a plan is not only expensive, but also complex. The process involves legal proceedings, detention costs, and logistical challenges. This could mean that the savings from reducing the number of people accessing social benefits might be offset by the costs of carrying out the deportations. Additionally, the sudden removal of a large population segment might create economic disruptions, potentially affecting local economies and tax revenues. Moving on to the social impact, mass deportations could have profound effects on German society. Imagine the stress and upheaval for families and communities that would be torn apart by such a plan. People who have established lives and built connections in Germany could face immense disruption. This could increase tensions within communities, as the process of deporting a significant number of people might foster fear and uncertainty among those left behind. The AFD's approach might also deepen social divisions. The party's rhetoric often portrays immigration as a threat, and implementing mass deportations could further entrench these views. This might lead to more polarized opinions and could even encourage extreme nationalist sentiments. On the other hand, such a drastic measure could also galvanize opposition groups and human rights advocates, potentially leading to protests and civil unrest. The social fabric of Germany could become even more divided, making it harder to find common ground on immigration and integration issues. Internationally, Germany's reputation could take a hit. The country has long been seen as a leader in upholding human rights and offering refuge to those in need. A move as drastic as mass deportations could undermine this image, leading to criticism from human rights organizations and other nations. Germany could face backlash, which might impact its diplomatic relations and its influence on global policies. This could be particularly damaging given Germany's role in the EU, where it has traditionally been a strong advocate for democratic values and human rights. The potential ripple effects across Europe are also worth considering. Germany's policies often set trends for other EU countries. If Germany goes ahead with mass deportations, other nations might feel compelled to adopt similar measures. This could lead to a more restrictive approach to immigration throughout Europe, creating fragmentation and undermining efforts to develop a unified immigration policy. The EU has been working towards more cohesive strategies for managing migration, focusing on improved border controls and fair treatment of asylum seekers. If Germany's approach influences other countries, it could disrupt these efforts and lead to a less coordinated and more contentious immigration policy across the Union. The future of Germany's immigration policy. Looking ahead, the future of Germany's immigration policy is bound to be influenced by the current debates and proposed plans, particularly those from the AfD. While the AfD's mass deportation plans have generated a lot of headlines, their actual implementation faces significant hurdles. Firstly, predicting the success of the AfD's plans involves considering several factors. The party's proposal to deport over 1 million people is ambitious and controversial. Given the complex legal, economic, and social challenges associated with such a large-scale operation, it's uncertain whether the AfD can achieve its goals. Legal battles, logistical issues, and public resistance could all play a role in stalling or even derailing these plans. The party's success will likely depend on their ability to navigate these challenges and garner sufficient support from other political entities. Upcoming elections will also be crucial in shaping Germany's immigration policy. The political landscape in Germany is dynamic, and voter sentiments can shift rapidly. If the AfD gains more ground in future elections, their influence on immigration policy could increase. However, the counterweight of other political parties, especially those with more moderate or progressive views, might lead to a more balanced approach. The outcome of these elections will be a key determinant in whether Germany moves towards stricter immigration policies or adopts a more moderate stance. As the debate over mass deportations continues to unfold, stay up to date with the latest news and insights. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage and analysis. Your support helps us keep you informed on critical issues shaping our world.